Okay, here we go then. The last race of the day, it's all to play for. Race 2, it all comes down to the next 14 laps. And away they go. Now, and there's Darren spinning out as well. Darren, there's contact there, pushed Kieran wide. Oh, but he's gone off. What's going on? Shane's also there in the BMW. Oh, nearly loses it. Kieran's going to have to slow down. No, he's gone too much. It's Josh here, and he is leading. This is fantastic for Josh. Oh, a bit of a love tap. And Josh, oh my God, who's going to take it? I think it's Darren. I think it's going to be Rob. Rob gets it. He's actually on the grass. This isn't good for Tom. And he's made the move. Look at that. Through Eau Rouge. Oh, that's Mike. Mike's gone off. Oh, Craig sideways. Big time. Is it going to be enough? No, Sam takes it and takes the title ahead of Tom. The grid lines up here for the second race of Red Bull Ring in Austria. Craig Kellett on the front row of the grid, again then in an Nissan GTR for Elliott Racing, next to Darren Parker in the Team Parker Racing Renault Megane. Stephen Heath on the second row of the grid in the Subaru WRX, next to Tom Foster in the K-Tech Racing Subaru WRX. Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane on row 3, next to Rob Pellet in the second of the Elliott Racing Nissan GTRs. Row 3, we've got the Nissan GTR of Harry Cook and Mike Kuiper's Nissan GTR. Row 4 is Chris Hensby in the BMW M4 and Josh Hardy in the Renault Megane. And at the back row of the grid, we've got Joe Burrows in the Mazda Atenza, and technical problems caused Kieran Thomas in the K-Tech Racing Subaru WRX to be at the back of the grid. Here we go then for race 2 here at Red Bull Ring, and a much lower sun causing an orange hue on the track. And away they go, and it's the usual affair for the start of the race, with the two Subarus getting a good start, and there's Heathy trying to get away, and oh, Darren's getting a bit stuck. He's actually been pushed into the tyre barriers, so I don't know quite what happened there, but Darren unfortunately facing the wrong way, so this is bad for Darren. It's the last thing that Darren needs, and it's a loud look at the lead already that the Nissan of Craig has got. And a turn in there. Josh is already into second, so this is great for Josh. Stephen Heath is behind Josh in third. So Stephen looking to go on the outside of Josh, but Tom is there to take advantage of that. But of course Tom has gone on to the hard for this race. We've actually got a replay of what happened to Darren earlier on with the start of that race, to see what happened with him. So let's have a look at that now. Let's have a look at the start with Darren and see what happens in the first corner. So it bogs down a little bit as the rear wheel drive Renaults do. Heathy's on the outside. Tom runs really wide, as does Harry. Harry goes into Heathy, and then it's just all a bit of a bunch up, and then Darren gets spun round, unfortunately. On board with Rob. Let's have a look, see what happens with Rob here. And as you can see, there was the contact there, and then Rob is just behind. Darren just disappears out of nowhere into the barrier. So Heathy's just run wide, so does Tom. So Tom's been hit, and so does Harry. So Harry's hit Tom, and Harry's in the gravel. So it's all kicking off here at Red Bull Ring. Tom's slowing. Has he got a problem? No, I think he's just let Harry go ahead. So that's put Tom right down to the back of the grids. So let's have another little look at that and see what happens with Tom and Harry, and find out there. On board with Tom. Then, as we see, Heathy runs a little bit wide into the gravel. Tom follows him, gets a bit unsettled, and as he's going wide into the next corner, the back end hits the grass. Tom's out of control, tries to regain control, and there is, unfortunately, Harry, who goes into Tom, and that spins Harry round. So Tom slows right down to let Harry past. On board with Harry, as you can see, Tom going raw wide there, and then he just struggles to find the place where to get the perfect opportunity to get past, and it just doesn't work out for Harry. On board with Mike here then, as Mike is behind Harry, so we'll be able to see what happened with Harry and with Tom as the impact happened. Yeah, that's all it took. It was just hard. Even Mike slightly got involved because a bit of contact with Mike, but there's nothing that Mike and Harry could do. It's just unfortunate that Tom spun out in front of them. Unfortunately, it was Tom's mistake. Heathy went wide, Tom hit the gravel, and Harry had nowhere to go. And it's the second time Harry, unfortunately, has had to crash into someone, as he did at the Dragon Trail, crashing into Rob as Rob tried to correct himself on the bus chicane. Josh is now leading this race, as you've seen, so on board with Craig. Could Josh get another win? This would be fantastic if he does. It's a completely different Josh to what we saw at the beginning of the season. Heathy is in third and Mark is in fourth. Joe making good progress here. On board with Kieran, just behind Joe. And Joe is on the outside of Mark now, so potentially Joe getting more positions and building himself up to another good points win here. Kieran potentially on the inside. No, it's decided to go against it, but Mark runs wide, so Kieran's got an opportunity to go down the inside this time, and he does so down the straight onto lap 3. Mike isn't too far behind. Joe's got a potential opportunity here, and that's Mark running very wide there, very, very wide, and you can see everyone else going streaming past him, and Mark goes down to 7th then. Further down, Rob is in 8th, and Chris is in 9th on the hard tyres. Darren in 10th after the accident in the first corner. Harry and Tom further down after their tussle and their crash. So Josh is still leading and looking stable so far. Craig, of course, is on the hard tyres, and so far this is good for Craig on the hards. This fight here looking rather interesting. So Joe up to 4th now. Could Joe get his first podium? Looking very, very strong here. And Mike, we're on board with, is just behind Heathy. And Mike again doing really well in the independents, and it's just got a little bit of work to try and catch up with Mark. Mark has just gapped him a little bit now, so he can't let him get too far ahead. Kieran just a bit behind. Mark is dropping off a little bit after running wide on the earlier lap. And Mark running wide again, so really, really struggling in race 2, Mark. So back on to the lead again. Josh just counting those laps down. It's still early days though. Oh, that's Joe. Joe's gone off, and so is Heathy. So 2 of them have gone off, and this is going to drop Joe down into 5th now. Kieran's gone up to 4th. Mike has gone up to 3rd. It's disappointing for Joe. He was looking strong and just lost it a little bit there and went in the gravel, and the gravel really slows you down here. Very common to run wide into that tight hairpin in turn 3. And that Mazda, the livery in the Mad Panda backing colours is apparently inspired by the Honda Civic BTCC Tourer, except rather than the orange, it's now got pink colours. On board with Joe as we watch Kieran and Mike fighting it out. Kieran goes behind Mike but has got the inside, and that's a good chance there for Kieran. Side by side again as we watch both of them. Nissan's just got the pull. The Subaru slightly underpowered when it comes to the rest of the field. There's Heathy running a little bit wide there. And Kieran looking strong here in race 2. Could he get a decent podium or even a win? As we've said before, Kieran running wide on the gravel. He's still nursing an injured foot, so he's having to adapt his racing techniques for now, and yet to still get his first ever win in the FeckWrest Tourers. And Joe is looking super racy here behind Kieran. And that Mazda showing its strength in the second race. And on the softs, it is a solid car, handling really great round here at Red Bull. Mark in a stable 7th then. Further down is Rob, Darren, Harry and Tom. Tom is unfortunately fallen back quite a bit behind the rest of them after his accident, so a lot of work to do for Tom. And Chris is having a real tough time on those hards. The first time ever on the hards in the BMW, as you can see, just not quite used to it yet. Josh still leading. There's a little bit of a twitch there from Josh, so looking like he's just a little bit unsettled, maybe a little bit under pressure. And to be honest, you would be with the dominating title leader behind you in the Nissan. Don't forget, Craig is on the hards, so this is an unbelievable performance by Craig to still be in second on lap 7 in that Nissan. So Heathy, look at that wide run again, doing that outside run on the runoff areas. A bit of a push to the behind of Joe. Oh, and in actual fact, that's more of a push. And the relationship between these two looking quite aggressive at the moment. Is it a healthy rivalry, or is it something a little bit more sinister? And we'll find out at the end of this race, I believe. So further down, Rob is now battling with Darren, and Darren has managed to get past Rob. Darren having to mop up after being pushed off the track in the first corner on the first lap, and Rob is just getting that car around on the hards. Harry here also salvaging the damage. So there's a few here who are just trying to make the most of gaining a few points after earlier incidents. And Heathy and Joe still fighting out here. Whoa, a little bit of a push, a little bit of a rub. Heathy's got a bit of a run here on Joe, and Heathy's got him. Joe's got a good run on the inside. That's on the edge of the braking there. That Mazda come to an absolute stop right on the limit. Fantastic stuff, and he's actually got him ahead of the Subaru, but that Subaru is not letting off. He's on the outside now, and it's looking like he's run very wide, way too wide, and he's gone off into the gravel. So that's Stephen Heath slowing, and Joe is going to retain that 5th position and be a bit more comfortable ahead of the Subaru. Luckily, Stephen Heath doesn't lose any more positions, but Mark Nichol is quite close behind, so Stephen needs to be careful not to do that again. So on board with Kieran now. Kieran just behind Mike, as Mike is just behind Josh, so Craig has fallen down to 4th now. It's expected on the hard tyres, but he's done well. And Mike has now got an opportunity. He's on the inside of Josh. Can he get past him to take the lead of the race? On to lap 9 now, and this lead pack here, the top 3, is really hotting up. And Kieran's on the inside of Mike now, so Kieran goes up into 2nd. Craig isn't too far behind. So Kieran's got Mike. Kieran into 2nd. Can Kieran take the lead? Bit of a push there by Mike, but it's actually helped Kieran a little bit. And Mike is still really close behind Kieran now. Look at that. Mike is really looking for any kind of gap to get past Kieran. And Josh's lead of this race is very much under threat now, not only by Kieran but potentially Mike. And this lead of the race has turned out to be a 3-way battle. Anything can happen from here. Kieran fighting for the team's points and for the overall standings, and Josh and Mike are looking for independence points to catch up with Mark. A bit of a push there from Kieran, and that slowed Kieran down, so Kieran could be passed by Mike, and he does. He's just unsettled the car into the final turn there, and now Craig is on the back of Kieran, so Craig could get passed back up into a podium. If Craig gets a podium on those hard tyres, it'll be a miracle. I don't think we've seen that before. To be that good on the hard tyres to still get a podium is just something incredible. Now Mike really pushing to see if he can take the lead here again ahead of Josh. Just going over those curbs has slowed that Nissan down. It's not quite the best way of getting around that tight hairpin, but lots of different techniques to get around it. Mike running a little bit wider to see if he can get the undercut. Kieran right on the backside of that Nissan. It's as tight as it can be for the lead of the race. We've seen plenty of races with 3-way tyres, and we're getting another fantastic show here. Josh is leading this race by just his fingertips at the moment, clinging on, and Mike is really putting the pressure on all over the back of Josh, but just can't find a way past at the moment. Josh is defending hard and defending well. It is the widest Renault ever to exist at the moment, as Josh tries to defend. Mike is on the outside, he's got the advantage, and their two are side by side now as they run down to the hairpin. Kieran very close behind. Look how close they are. Mike's got him, I think, but they all run wide. Look at that. Mike's run wide, Josh has run wide, Kieran's run wide, and they come together. That's incredible. They're 3 wide now as they go down the next straight into the next tight hairpin. Josh is on the inside. Can he stay there? This is just unreal. Oh, just about. It's Josh back in the lead then. Kieran is 2nd, Mike is in 3rd, and Craig is there to watch it all from behind. He could pick up the pieces. Could he take a win? it's just settled down a little bit now. So Josh still leading, Kieran is second, Mike is third, and Craig is very close in fourth behind. Let's come away from this a little bit, and we're finding Joe and Stephen Heath are still fighting. They're a little bit separated, but Mark is in 7th ahead of Darren, so Darren is catching up to Mark now, so potentially Darren could make another position up. And Tom now is ahead of Rob, so Rob and Tom fighting it out for 10th and 9th. Harry has fallen behind, and obviously Chris is still at the back, which is really struggling in that BMW. So there's fights everywhere in this race, and even right at the back for just the few points, because every point counts when it comes to the races and the title. And when you come to brands at the final, it could mean the difference between winning a title, losing a title. So there you go, that's Rob at the inside. That was a good opportunity, and Rob's got it. And Rob's got a better run out there, so Rob now ahead of Tom. Rob takes 9th, Tom is down to 10th, Harry isn't too far behind, so it's all still to play for here with this back running pack. Back for the lead then, and Josh is still leading, Kieran is still second, Mike is still third, and Craig is still putting the pressure on Mike. And on board with Mike again. Look at the run that Mike gets on that final corner. Onto the final lap, Josh goes. Can Josh defend hard and keep that lead to take his 3rd win of the season? He's not had a win before Dragon Trail. He gets 2, and then he could potentially get another one in the next round. So once he started winning, he can continue on. And there's contact there. Kieran hits Josh. He slows down into the front of Mike, so Mike hits Kieran, and again that slowed them all down to the traps of Craig. This is so close for the lead, and there's Craig running a little wide there. And it could all change literally in the last couple of corners here. I couldn't tell who's going to win. Josh has just got the gap. He's got a tiny little gap because Mike is on the back of Kieran. But Kieran's got a good run on the back of Josh here. Could Kieran get it? I don't think he's quite got it. Mike is close to Kieran. As they come round, there's Mike. Mike's got contact with Kieran, and that's allowed Josh to take the lead and the win. So Josh takes it, Kieran takes 2nd, 3rd is Mike, just ahead of Craig. An incredible 2nd race. Joe just ahead of Stephen as well. So Joe gets 5th, Stephen gets 6th. Races are super close all throughout. Mark is just going to stay ahead of Darren then. Mark takes 7th ahead of Darren in 8th. Tom and Rob as well fighting it out. Rob's going to take 9th, Tom's going to take 10th. Another close race. Harry's going to take 11th. And unfortunately, here comes Chris Hensby in the BMW. And so Chris is going to finish at the back. And we wait for Chris to come round to take the checker flag. He'll be a little bit disappointed, very frustrated, but at least he will want to try and get something better in race 3 on the soft tyres. So Chris takes 12th in the BMW. Josh takes his 3rd ever win then for race 2 at Red Bull Ring, just ahead of Kieran and Mike in 3rd. Craig is in 4th. Joe is just ahead of Stephen, 5th and 6th. 7th, Mark was just ahead of Darren in 8th. Rob is just ahead of Tom in 9th and 10th, and Harry was 11th, and Chris was at the back in 12th. What this means then for the title: Craig increases his lead yet again to 232 ahead of Darren with 192. Mike jumps back ahead of Mark now with 160 points, and Josh jumps ahead of Mark with 158. So Mark now down to 5th with 155, but it's still very, very close between the three. Tom isn't too far behind in 6th with 149. Sam is 7th still with 115, but Kieran is very, very close behind in 8th with 111. Harry has 99 in 9th. Rob is 88 in 10th. Stephen is still 11th with 72. 12th is Gary with 43. Joe is still 14th with 41. James in 14th with 27. And Chris is 15th with 11 points. In the team's title, Elliott Racing go further ahead in the lead with 304 points. Parker still second with 357, and K-Tech increasing that deficit between them and Parker with 330. In the independents, Mark and Mike, can you believe it, are joint top now with 214 points apiece. Third is Josh, catching up now, 198, and Harry is fourth with 160. Gary is jumped ahead by Stephen with 95 points. In 5th. In 6th is Gary with 70. Joe is 7th with 63. James is 8th with 34, and Chris is 9th with 20.